Hello and welcome to the world-famous and award-winning Driving You Crazy podcast. This is the show where we talk about all things transportation, anything that gets you from here to there. I'm the traffic anchor, the transportation reporter for Denver 7 News, Jason Luber. If you would like to contact me, all of my contact links are in the description of the show. And, of course, you can call the listener hotline at 303-832-0217. I've been getting some odd calls lately. It's really just silence and then a sound. I just played it, so there you go. I don't need to play any others. Coming up in just a little bit, I'm going to be speaking with Dana Edens, who is with this website called Consumer Affairs. Don't get them mixed up with Consumer Reports at consumeraffairs.com. And they have an article on their site, and it says, What America's Driving Habits Reveal About Road Safety. And I thought it was really interesting, some of the questions that were asked of 1,000 people, 1,000 drivers, licensed drivers in the United States, and also interesting information about should older drivers be retested before they can continue to have a driver's license, whether it's a written test or a driving test or both. There's really a lot of interesting stuff, so I invited Dana on to go through the entire study and to go through some of the results and to talk a little bit about it. So that'll be coming up in just a couple minutes. But I wanted to first open up the mailbag, and I wish I had a mailbag sounder, and I wanted to answer a couple of questions, or at least share some questions with you that came out from the mailbag recently. So I had Michelle from Denver wrote to me, and she said, what's driving you crazy? Why is there no direct pedestrian path to get into Jimmy John's and Cold Stone in Belmar? After parking, you have to walk around a long fence with bushes. One entrance is on the side with a 2- or 4-way stop. With no crosswalk, it seems dangerous the way it's designed, making people walk into the street to get around the fence rather than allowing people just to get out of the street and go directly into a sidewalk in front of the business. Well, Michelle, I usually take issues of roadways, but since this is a walkway, I'll do my best to answer it for you. Let me paint a better picture here for the listening audience, because it's like radio, right? You can't see I can't show you the picture of what's going on. So imagine a building, and there's a sandwich shop and an ice cream store and a T-Mobile store, right? You would go to a parking lot, and sometimes you would be able to park right in front of it, and you just go right into, you get your sandwich. Well, that's not the case here. There's actually a little roadway that separates the building from some of the parking spaces. So when you park, you would actually have to walk across a little road. And it's a parking lot road, so it's not like a regular road with stripes or anything. It's just a parking lot road. And so you would have to walk across that, but instead of running right into the Jimmy John's or going to get some ice cream, there is a little area with bushes and then a fence. And it's about 100 feet long. And so the only way to get to those stores is by going around the bushes and the fence. And that's how you access the store. So if you're coming out of the store and you want to go right to your car, boom, you'd run right into a fence. If you tried to do that, you have to walk around this fence. And I think the developer thought that maybe the decorative fencing was, one, a nice touch, not really thinking too much. It would be too much of a trouble to walk maybe 25 feet around the fence to go grab your lunch. But I think maybe they wanted to block some of the access because technically, looking at the layout of the parking lot, it's easy to park on one side or the other side of the building, and that way you don't have people just running out into a street if there's somebody driving by, even though, yeah, it's not like a regular street, but it's still a street enough where you don't want people just running out into the street and maybe getting hit by somebody. So I think maybe it's a combination of a couple of things there. I don't know for sure. It's to me more maybe of an inconvenience for one person than it is rather than an inconvenience or a larger issue that affects many more people. So I'm going to say not sure, just speculating on some of those things there, Michelle. And I guess you can just, how about this? Think of it this way. You're going to shorten your daily workout by 50 feet. Okay, next question. Bradley from Westerville, Ohio wrote to me saying, I am sending this message in regards to the moon. It has been missing for 7 nights now. Tonight marks the 7th night. I just figured I'd let you guys know, if you didn't already, where might it be and what are they doing? Thanks for the question, Bradley. I first want to explore this topic. And I've heard this often. I really don't know who they are because people refer to they are doing something or what are they doing or they did something. I don't know who they are, but I assure you, whoever they are, the moon is still up there, as it has been for many moons now. I just took a picture of it, and if you'd like me to send you that picture as proof of the moon, now look, I can send it to you. You might say the picture is fake or AI derived, but I assure you, as a credentialed journalist, it is 100% real picture of the actual moon. Whether it's made of cheese, that's still up for debate. Anthony from Castle Rock wrote to me saying, what's driving you crazy when people get into the turn lane or change lanes and then put on their turn signal? It's not a confirmation signal. True, Anthony. Yes, very true. But maybe it's better to think of it as better late than never. And Marcia from Golden, Colorado wrote to me saying, hello and hi there. I wish someone would monitor what the closed caption technicians is writing on your screen. Some of it makes absolutely no sense. Either replace your employee or keep him from going to happy hour. Well, Marcia, computers don't drink as far as I know, and so that's not the problem. Look, voice recognition and AI are the problem now, and that's how most of the closed captioning is being done now. Yes, at one point there were people that were actually listening and typing as fast as they could, and that it was put on the screen. In fact, one of my daughter's friends' neighbor, if you can catch the thing, worked for one of the largest closed captioning services in the world, and he was just laid off, and he said it was directly because of AI, and he said that AI is now doing most of this work. There's a large company that does all the closed captioning that is owned by another company that's based in Denver, and this guy was just laid off. So it's cheaper, of course, to use AI than it is to use regular people. Maybe it's not better yet at the voice recognition and the typing on the screen as the AI is still learning, but it will get better over time. But until then, you might see some crazy words on the screen until that time comes. So, and unfortunately, this is another example of AI taking somebody's job. Now, there will be other jobs that will be created because of AI, and the trade jobs will always be in need. And I think that's one of the reasons you've seen maybe a surge. And I know at my the county school system has really put in a lot of money into helping high school kids get into the trades early. They actually have this thing called a legacy campus, and it's like in the northern part of the county. And what they have over there is they have a robotics lab. My daughter is actually part of the aviation school over there, 2 years, and then you can become a private pilot, and then go on to be any kind, a military pilot or commercial pilot if you want. They're constructing right now a HVAC, plumbing, electric lab, school. They have culinary school. They have something else over there. But I mean, so they're getting over at her high school, my daughter's high school. They actually have a fire truck and ambulance for the fire service school that they have there. And so kids from the other high schools will sign up, and then they have a couple of periods where they have to drive over to her high school, and then they can take fire service. And if they wanted to go be a fireman or a paramedic, they can do it right out of high school. So I think that's where AI is going to put people into some of the trades that have been overlooked for a long time. Back to the mailbag. This one is from Stephanie in Monument, Colorado, who wrote to me saying, when will Vince McMahon, The Rock, Deron Johnson, she says, and their little friend Kevin Hart be leaving my house? We're over being assaulted by them. well, Stephanie, I don't know really how to help you. I do know that The Rock and Mr. Hart are actually doing a lot of movies together and commercials together. I really enjoyed their work in the newer Jumanji movies. Those were pretty fun. I'm more than though fairly confident that they are not in your home. Yeah, I guess they could be on your TV or on your phone, and both of those things have something called a power button, and you could just switch that off, and that should probably I would think in most cases take care of that problem. If not, go ahead and let me know. That wraps up the mailbag segment. If you if you would like to send me a note or call that listener hotline, all the information is in the description of this show. So driving is probably one of the most routine parts of our daily life, yet many of us may not be as prepared for the roads as we think. I was sent a new survey from a website called Consumer Affairs, not to be confused with Consumer Reports, the major product review and ratings and advice-giving website. Well, I have a survey from Consumer Affairs, and I put the link to them and to this survey in the description of this episode. And the survey is called What America's Driving Habits Reveal About Road Safety. And it looked at the driver's knowledge of traffic laws and driving confidence and safety habits. And I thought some of the findings were quite interesting. So I invited Dana Edens from Consumer Affairs to go through these findings of this study, and we can talk more about it. Dana, thanks so much for being here on the world-famous Driving You Crazy podcast.
Absolutely. Happy to be here, Jason.
All right. So you were a TV news reporter, I know, for about a year and a half. I'm pretty sure I know the answer to this, but would you ever want to come back to TV news?
Nope. I'm thankful for the experience, but happy for it to be in the background.
I had a feeling you were going to say that.
They call it switching to the dark side when you move over to public relations.
I know.
It's the bright side.
I've had some callings to go out, but TV keeps pulling me back in. So
it'll get you. It's got a grip on you.
You're not kidding. And at this point in my life, what else am I going to do? So before we get into the numbers and facts and figures and all that stuff of the study, I know it was written by a Consumer Affairs contributing writer, Meg Mathias. And I was just wondering, why did she decide to write and do this survey? What was there just general interest in this, or was there something else that made her want to ask these questions of 1,000 drivers?
Yeah, absolutely. So we just kind of, when you're driving along the roads and kind of like what's driving you crazy, there is drivers who make us feel that way. And, you're hoping that everybody is taking the same tests you are, getting their license the same way that you are. But there's always those people that are driving and you're like, are you seriously allowed to be on the road right now? So, at Consumer Affairs, we're always just looking to help consumers out there and those real life experiences. So this survey is one of those.
Yeah. Talk a little bit about the methodology. I said there were 1,000 licensed U.S. drivers, right? But was there more to the methodology of this survey?
Yes, we did 1,000 licensed U.S. drivers above the age of 18, and we were able to do only people that have a valid license. So we're not including anybody that just got their learner's permit or anything like that. We had them answer 15 questions, kind of ranking everything from your confidence to how you rate yourself as a driver, if you're better than average, worse than average. We did look at accident history, traffic laws, some driving myths, like my grandmother used to tell me, turn that light off in the background because I can't legally drive with it on, and that's just not the case. And then we also looked at some really important things like texting and driving and drinking and driving. So there's a lot that went into the 15 questions, but they were, of course, anonymously surveyed and able to bring those respondents into our Now report.
Yeah, and the first part of the survey, it asks the question about texting and driving. And I have a little distrust of these results. What did you all find out?
So we found that when it comes to distracted driving, 1 in 4 Americans will actually admit that they do so. Most common times they're talking about stoplights, traffic jams. We did have some folks that said they do it on highways, but another local or another place that people say that they're sending a text or checking a text is when they're on their local street. So, driving through the neighborhood in an area that you feel comfortable. We were also able to kind of break that down by generations, and we did learn that baby boomers, the older generation, said 97% of those said that they will never send a text while driving. It's obviously something that younger folks are looked down on for having their phone always near them. I think that kind of any person could tell you that, but it's something that we know having that phone in hand can be a real distraction in the car.
Oh, yeah. And being in a neighborhood is actually one of the most dangerous places that you can use your phone because you have people walking around, crossing a street. You might be in a neighborhood where there are kids playing. And so that could be the most dangerous place to be distracted.
Absolutely. I mean, if somebody's walking their dog and they're, picking down to pick up the droplets and you're speeding, you're texting through the neighborhood, that's just putting yourself and them at stake.
Picking up the droplets has got to be, I'm going to write that down, picking up the droplets, because
I
that is,
have a 12-week-old puppy, so that is something
okay.
we're commonly doing.
Okay, good. Because, I guess it depends on the dog. Some dogs have droplets and others have more like mounds. Uh, but I wish your question really asked about general interaction with the device rather than just texting, because I see people checking their phone all the time, and I'm sure you see it too, at an intersection, and they'll pick up their phone, not necessarily just to text, but to interact with it in some way.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, of course, wasn't something we specifically looked into, but you do see people scrolling through Instagram, scrolling through their Snapchat, sending a selfie while they're driving and sitting. I know sitting at the stoplight, you might think you're safe, but you just don't have the awareness of your surroundings that you do when you're looking down at that device.
Yeah. And then it says in traffic jams, 7% say they used it in a traffic jam. That's also a horrible place because as I study every single morning, watching morning traffic and stop and go traffic, that's when we see most of those fender benders, the rear end, the collisions like that, where they're a chain reaction because somebody's not paying attention. They're distracted by their phone for just a few seconds and they roll into somebody in front of them.
Absolutely. If your eyes are not on the road and your focus is not on your car, you're putting yourself and others at danger. And I mean, traffic jams, I know you're slow and you're crawling, but you're still operating that motor vehicle. You're still putting yourself in those shoes.
Yeah, and it's surprising that 26%, only 20%. I mean, I would think this is a survey where it is anonymous, where they didn't have to attach their name to it. So
Correct.
only 26%. I mean, seriously, we both know that we see a lot more people than that using their phones.
Yeah, absolutely. I know that it was 1 in 4, but I feel like if you roll up to a stoplight, you can probably look around and see a couple more than that.
Right. All right. So I'm speaking with Dana Edens. She's a senior digital PR specialist at Consumer Affairs. You can find them at consumeraffairs.com. And I have a link to not only them, but also this survey, this study that we're talking about driver behavior and driver knowledge. And you can find that in the description of this show. Now, next in this survey, you found that most drivers think that driving over a few miles over the limit is safe, and we were talking about speeding. So I tend to not go more than 5 to 10 miles an hour over the limit, but I do tend to travel that fast, depending on which of the roadways I'm on. In the neighborhood, I don't, but if I'm on the interstate, sure, I'm going a little bit faster than the limit. What did the survey find out?
Yeah, absolutely. So we found that most people are okay with going a couple numbers, just like you said, over. We've got people that are going 1 to 9 miles over. So, I mean, that's just under 10 miles. If you think about that, if you're on a neighborhood street, you're going 35 and a 25. That's really something. But if you're going maybe 75 and a 65, it's a little bit different. It just obviously depends on the area that you're in. But yeah, we found that the most common places that people are speeding are on highways or where traffic is flowing, and their kind of excuse for speeding is, oh, I got to keep up with the flow of traffic. I got to keep things moving. I can't be the one who causes the traffic jam here. We did find a small percentage of people, I would say small, 7% said that they consider it still being safe going 10 to 14 miles over the speed limit. At that point, I don't know what your ticket's going to look like if you get caught like that. I don't think that I would consider that safe, but there is folks that do that. And we also had a section of people that said that they don't consider anything above the speed limit safe. So, I mean, those are probably the people that are the best drivers out there, or maybe it's your grandmother. But either way, it's people that are following the rules. And everyone else may think that speeding just a little bit is harmless, but that's kind of how our social norms can shape our behavior versus actually following those rules.
Yeah. And like you said, it's all relative. So I know here in Colorado and other places in the West, in Texas, they have even higher limits, but our highest is 75. So if you're doing 15 over, you're going 90 miles an hour. And depending on the roadway, it could be considered safe depending on your car, your tires, the conditions, all of that. But still, that's pretty quick.
Yeah, absolutely. It definitely depends on if there's a ton of people out on the road. I mean, no matter what, you're still speeding, but it definitely depends if there's, an 18-wheeler in front of you. If it's an open road, you're just cruising along. So there's a lot of different things to take into account there, but most people will admit that they're happy to drive right above the speed limit.
And the 25% of the drivers say they don't speed at all. I look, even old people in the villages down in Florida speed. Now it's most often in their golf carts, but seriously, 25% say they don't go over the speed limit.
Yeah, absolutely. I wonder if that's kind of related to the same percentage of people who say they never text while driving.
Right, exactly. So I don't know. That's why some of these answers, yeah, a little bit suspect. But it's just 1,000 people that were surveyed. So the next section of the survey goes into the widespread confusion about basic road rules. So what are some of the questions that were asked?
Yeah, so one of the first questions that we asked, and I can kind of help you picture this, if you're at a four-way stop, you and I both come and we arrive at the exact same time, but we're in opposite directions. I'm wanting to turn left, you're wanting to turn right. It should be a simple who has the right of way, the person who's making the right turn.
Mm-hmm.
But we had quite a few people who either say that the person turning left should be, and we gave them a picture, we colored the cars certain ways so that it was really easy to tell. But we had several folks who said that the drivers should need to decide on their own, given that hand signal, the little helpful wave of go
Yeah,
ahead.
right.
And then we had people who literally said that the person turning left and crossing all those lanes of traffic is the person that gets the right of way.
Yeah. Yeah, it's always, and I've said this on the show many times before, it's always right before left, always, at any intersection. And then, except if you are at a four-way and everybody's just joining together at the same, then you kind of work it out, but it's always right before left. You also found, or asked a question about the school bus rule, and I know here, at least in Colorado, and I think other states are following along, that they're changing how and when you should stop for a school bus.
Yeah, absolutely. And we found that 92% of people have it right. They know that when the lights are flashing, that stop arm is down, that you are supposed to stop, no matter which side of the road you're on. 6% of those people, though, thought you could just proceed with caution. And that brings a lot of danger for not just you, but I mean, the kids' safety is on the line. You don't know if they're getting off the bus and running across the road because their neighborhood's on the other side, or it's just, I mean, you're supposed to be following those school bus rules, and especially as, I mean, school's back in session now. So, I mean, imagine you're texting and driving on those local roads, you're speeding a little bit, and now you don't know what to do when a school bus is in front of you.
Right. And I know here in our state that the rules have just been enhanced where the only time, depending on which direction you're going, so you're going with the bus, you always have to stop. But if you're going in the opposite direction of the bus, it used to be if there was even a barrier of some sort, even a painted line in the middle of the roadway, you didn't have to stop. But now there has to be some kind of physical barrier, and I think a lot of states are going to that model. There has to be some kind of a physical barrier between the bus and your lane in order for you to keep on going.
Yeah, absolutely. And it just gives that extra protection of safety for, if there's that little grass pavement in between, it allows something for those kids to put a landing on before they're at the front of your car.
And another part of this part of the questioning, I was interested in how many people don't understand what a dashed yellow line is for. It's really surprising that people don't know the basic rules of pavement markings.
Yeah, and I mean that's exactly why we did this, because you assume that these other drivers around you know these things. But so we asked folks, you're driving on a two-lane road, traffic's moving in both directions, coming, going. It's got a yellow line, two yellow lines. The one closest to you is a dashed or a dotted line, and the one closest to oncoming traffic is solid. We asked them, can you legally pass? And about 65% said that yes, you can pass if no oncoming traffic is present. But we had another handful of people saying that no, because they think that lane is for the oncoming traffic, or no, because one of the lines is solid, so that just means no right there. And then others that weren't sure or said that you can pass at any time that you desire. And that's just, I mean, that's one of those things. I absolutely, I mean, I only took my driver's ed test probably 10, 12 years ago, but I remember that being on there. And I know that I had to study that. So it's just one of those things that I guess Americans are forgetting the more that they're behind the wheel.
And really, it's not that hard to think about. Just think about it. In your lane, you have a yellow line, and then the other side also has a yellow line. And it basically says, hey, there's danger over there. You're not supposed to go that way if it's solid. If it's striped, hey, use some caution, but you can go over onto that other side if you need to. So as people look at the double yellow line and they think that is for both sides. It's not. You have a yellow line, they have a yellow line, and it's combined. So that's why you might see the striped on one side or just one stripe across the middle where both sides could legally pass.
Yeah, of course. And you always want to make sure you're staying safe there, not even if you've got that dotted striped line, you don't want to be passing when you're going around a circle or if you're going up a hill. You've got to be able to actually see if there's any oncoming traffic.
And of course, the left lane rule. Everybody complains to me about people driving slowly in the left lane, and it's not a camping lane, it's a passing lane.
Yes, it is a passing. A lot of people think that, it is the fast lane, or I know that that is what people are doing in there,
Yeah.
but they're supposed to be scooching over, going a little faster, and passing the car in front of them. We had several folks, about 35, 36%, that think that it is literally the fast lane and that that's what it is called from like the DOT, but it's not. It's also not for cruising at any speed. So if you're on a road trip, you're not setting cruise control and just staying in that left lane. We also had people who did not think that the left lane had any specific purpose, that it was just another lane on the highway.
Yeah. And we also, in this one section of your study and your survey, you found that you were asking people about blood alcohol level and what is that concentration that would get you a ticket or get you arrested. And it's surprising that people don't know what that level is, and probably don't know how many drinks it takes to get to that level.
Yeah, absolutely. We had only about half people, which is pretty concerning when you think about it. Only about a half said that it's 0.08%, which is true for most states. I'm not sure what the outliers are there, but I know that there's a couple that may have things different. We had several people who were actually thinking it was lower, which I think is good in terms of rather than ranking it higher. Like we had about 5% that said 0.10%, and that's concerning, where we had 17, almost 18% saying 0.02%. So that's one, two drinks, depending on your body weight, of course. But yeah, about half of Americans don't know what the legal BAC is.
And they probably don't know that if you add it point, I know in most states it's 0.05 for driving while ability impaired, which can almost have as many penalties and fines as a full on DUI.
Yeah, we had 12% of people who guessed that, and I'm wondering if that's those folks who do know that extra rule there. It kind of tripped them up a little bit, but I say at least the majority that didn't get it right were guessing under the 0.08. So that's at least a limelight in everything.
Yeah. My guest is Dana Edens. She's a senior digital PR specialist at Consumer Affairs. You can find them at consumeraffairs.com. We're speaking about their study called What America's Driving Habits Reveal About Road Safety. The next section, you have a couple of driving myths. And one of the questions is something that I have been asked in the past, and it's about whether you should drive with your shoes or without.
Yeah, so half of Americans believe that it is illegal to drive barefoot. Now, don't get me wrong, if I'm wearing a pair of heels and I've got my heels as an option or barefoot as an option, I'm absolutely going barefoot. It's safer for you and it's safer for me. But it's not illegal anywhere in the US. It's just something that we've kind of been told. I don't know where it started. I don't know if it was our parents, our grandparents who just told us for safety purposes to put your shoes on, but it's not illegal.
And there was also, and that's funny you say that, because always driving barefoot or with flip flops, sometimes the flip flops can get stuck. If just
Absolutely.
like with your heels, can get stuck on the brake or the pedal or the gas pedal. And then if you're driving a stick shift, then all bets are off, because you have all kinds of pedals going on at the same time. How many people though are driving with stick shifts nowadays, right?
Yeah, I don't know. And I'm not sure the percentage of those with heels and stick shifts. That's probably pretty small.
You probably don't. You're probably young enough where you don't even need to know how to drive a stick shift, right?
No, I
Oh,
just did
okay.
not get a stick shift.
Okay. Okay, good. Well, because,
I
I
did
need,
have a couple friends who had stick shifts for the sole purpose that their parents said that they
yes,
could not be distracted while they were driving.
perfect. Yep. I almost did that to my 16-year-old daughter. Well, I guess she'll be 17 in a couple of days. So, yeah, so I almost did that to her, but my wife talked me out of it. But you also have another question about, like you said earlier, about having a light on in the car while you're driving at night.
Yeah, we had another half of Americans said that it is illegal to drive with your interior lights on, whether that's your reading light, if it's a little backseat light, whatever. It's not illegal. It's just a myth that has been passed down from generation to generation. And I mean, it may be distracting, but it's not illegal.
Yeah, it was just my father used to say that all the time too, because he hated it when we had that little light on in the back. But and I think it was like you said, it's more distracting than to them as a driver than I put up with it. I didn't really mind it that much. So the next part of your survey, and it was really one of my more interesting parts I found of the survey, was the question about should older drivers be tested again to be able to keep their driver's license. What did the survey find?
Yeah, 3 in 4 Americans believe that drivers, once you hit the age of 70, should be required to be retested, whether that's taking the written test again, a road test, or both. Um, it's just, I mean, it's something that I think it's balancing independence for older adults with safety concerns that everybody else has on the road.
Yeah, and I don't think there's any surprise that it's the younger folks that believe that the older folks should be tested, while the older folks don't think they need to be tested.
Right, absolutely. So 50% of baby boomers said that no, we don't need to be retested, or if they're getting up to that age, we don't need to prepare to take a test again, where we had about 20% of Generation X and younger generations that were like, no, they don't need to. Everybody else, that 80% said, yes, they need to be taking that test again.
And how some states are looking at this, and Illinois actually passed a law about this and is looking at safety of not only older drivers, but really everybody on the road.
Yeah, I believe that Illinois just enacted a law that requires seniors to take driving tests once they hit either 80 or 87, one of those two numbers there. I'm not in Illinois, but so Illinois policymakers don't come at me, but I know it's in that 80 range.
Yeah, I think it's 87. Yeah, so the older, and that's about when I know my grandmother, she was independent all the way up to she was about 85 or so, and was really driving almost all the time, but she started losing her ability to drive back when she was in her late 70s, early 80s, so it would probably have been a good idea. And I've talked to other folks who actually, this one person who will go out with older drivers at the request of family members and go out on a road test with them and go and test their ability and see if they are still able to read road signs and react quickly enough. Because I'm telling you, there are times when you're on the road, even me as a seasoned driver, and I'm in my mid to late 50s, and so it's still coming at me really fast, and I know it's coming at them even faster.
Yeah, there's a lot going on when you're behind the wheel. And when you're getting a little older in age, just things slow down a little bit. So rather than making your grandmother come drive to you, just go drive to her. Save everybody the trip. And it's just going to keep things a lot safer for everybody else on the road, also for your grandmother.
But then they feel like they're losing their independence. And it's just like, when you turn 16 and when I turned 16, I was so happy to get my driver's license because then, boom, I'm out and I can go wherever I want, whenever I want. And so I think they start to feel like they're losing their independence where they can't go out where they need to.
Yeah, I mean, it's kind of like when you're a teenager and you mess up, you get grounded and you're not able to go out with your friends or anything like that. It's the same kind of thing. When you take away their keys or take away their driver's license, you are limiting what they can do and how they can do it. So it definitely is one of those things that you got to balance independence for them while also making sure that people are staying safe.
And you finally end up with this survey and end the survey with some information about how confident drivers they believe they are. And I always say that people think that they are the best and that person is the worst.
Absolutely. So this was one of my favorite findings as well. We found that 44% Americans said that they were very confident that if they were handed a written driving test today, that they would ace it. When we gave them those basic knowledge questions, of course, like who has the right of way at a four-way stop, or the interior lights on. 1 in 5 then got it wrong. So we're seeing a big difference between that confidence versus competence. Like, are you actually able to put your knowledge to the test? There's some folks that literally had the wrong car turning, and those are the same people who are also rating themselves as very confident or slightly confident that they could be passing the test today.
Yeah, and I'm reading it through the study, and I'm seeing that 31% say that they are an excellent driver. All I can think about Rain Man at that time. But when 72% say they are at least an above average or excellent driver, it's always the other guy, right, who is the jerk, and you are the one that's doing it right.
Yeah, absolutely. So we literally asked people to put their driving skills compared to what they think the average driver is. And that's where you have the mass majority of people saying that they're either excellent or they're above average. They're average. We only had like less than 1.5% of people who said that they were either below average or poor compared to the person driving next to them. And I'm just imagining a person on the road next to me and I'm like, do you really think that that's true?
Yeah, so if you have 1% and 0.03%, you're talking out of 1,000 people, you're basically talking about 13 people that were honest in this survey.
Correct, yeah. There's 13 people who are confident enough in themselves. Yeah. So when you've got that driver next to you, I hope that they're a little bit more knowledgeable than what they're pretending to be.
That's right. Yeah. No, it's so funny to hear, what people really think of themselves and how honest or not honest they are. And then finally, you end the survey with some smart habits and safer driving tips and car ownership tips.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, the first one is always just put the phone down, avoid your distractions, keep your eyes on the road. I don't care if you're at a stoplight, I don't care if you're stuck in literally the worst traffic jam you've ever been. You don't need to be picking up your phone and scrolling through social media. It can wait. You also want to make sure that your car is always insured wherever you're going. Car insurance is something that you've got to be driving around. So make sure that you're fully prepared for that. Also, always buckle up, no matter if you're in the front seat, passenger seat, the back seat. It's the simplest way to protect yourself if you are in the crash. And then always just, when you've got other people on the road who may not be actually as knowledgeable as you think, just if you want a safer road, we've got to be thinking about it. We've got to be actually knowing what's going on and thinking back. You don't necessarily have to think back to when you were 16 years old and taking your test, but just think back and be like, is that really something that I should be doing right now while I'm behind the wheel?
Right. Have you guys received any feedback from this study? If people reading it and then getting back to you and saying, they either like or dislike the survey?
Yeah, I mean, we've got people like you who just want to talk a little bit more about it and just understand like what's going on inside drivers' heads and what's going on inside the American population when we're talking about this and we're talking about, myths that just won't die out or texting and speeding, which is just very, I know there's a lot of states are doing, hands free or hands down states. So hands free. I know when I was in South Carolina and Charleston, they had like an eyes up campaign that it was just like keep your eyes up, not on your phone. So we've had several folks just reach out wanting to talk a little bit more about it and wanting to understand that the bottom line is, how do we get to these safer roads?
Right. Yeah. Maybe just eliminating phones altogether, or having some kind of a shut-off device in your car that shuts them off when you're in the car. That might be the only thing.
Yeah, I mean, if you want to put it on Do Not Disturb and throw it in the trunk, I'm all for it.
Right. There you go. What are you guys going to be working on some other driver surveys or have some others in the works?
Yeah, I'm not 100% sure about a driver survey, but we do, talk a lot about car insurance on for consumer affairs. So we'll definitely be looking into other things. We'll probably do something about like the best places to go have a fall road trip or the safest places to go do that kind of stuff. So I'm not sure if Denver's up there, but my brother lives in Denver and he was just leaf peeping this past weekend. So I know that it's getting to be about that time. So yeah, we're definitely looking for the next consumer insights, no matter what category it's in.
Very nice. Well, if he ever needs any road help, just have him look me up, and I'm sure
Absolutely.
he sees me on TV, so he can I can give him as much help as he needs. Dana Edens, thank you so much from Consumer Affairs. You can find him again at consumeraffairs.com, and I have a link to the actual study in the description of this episode. Thanks again for your time. All the best to you and to the folks over there, and thanks again for all your expertise.
Thanks, Jason. You have a great rest of your day.
Yeah, I thought that was a pretty interesting survey that they did, and I wish people were just more honest when they're answering these things. Seriously, I mean, there probably were like 20 people that were honest in their answers of, of this survey. Oh man, but actually, one part that she was talking about the myths, driving myths versus fact, it reminded me right after we got off the call. Was I did a story, years and years and years ago, and there was a myth that you couldn't drive a black car on Sundays in Denver. Yeah, that they somebody thought that was an actual driving law, and I think if you still look it up, it might come up as fact, but it is not. I actually spent a lot of time at the Denver Public Library going through old traffic laws, driving handbooks, and all those from the city and from the state. I was over at the library a lot, looking at all the different research materials. And I even had to visit the Colorado State Law Library, which is right there as well. So I was looking at a lot of different information, and I never found anywhere in any of the law books or any of the driver handbooks or any of that stuff, state, city, whatever, that was ever a law in Denver that you weren't allowed to drive a black car in Denver on Sundays. So I did that story a long time. I wonder if it's still out there. I should actually do a quick search of it, and I wonder if it's going to come up. Let me do this right now, right here. Can you drive a black car in Denver on Sunday? Oh, look, it comes up as a search. Yes, you can drive a black car in Denver on Sundays. They claim it's illegal. You know what? I bet this is actually linked to me. Yeah, it is. There you go. From July 28th, 2017 is my story. And so there you go. From almost 10 years ago is the story. I have made AI. As somebody was asking me about that, do you use AI when you're doing your traffic stories? And I say, look, when I'm asking these questions, I actually did a couple of times. I put the questions into the search, and the AI, it doesn't have an answer because that question has not been asked and answered in the way I do it. And they are so specific that the AI is just pulling from the internet somewhere. It's really good at summarizing things. If I had like a calendar of events that I've done all month long, it could take all of those and say, hey, you were at this point in this place and you did these things, and takes your notes and summarizes it. It's all good at that stuff. But it can't research what it doesn't find on the internet. And if and nobody else is really that I know of in the country is answering questions in the way I am, in that specific way. And so it has to pull from what's out there. And when I publish a story, then it's out there in the internet. And if you type in one of my questions, the AI will pull it right from me. So there you go. That's pretty cool. Anyway, if you have any questions, comments, concerns, let me know. All my contact info is in the description of this fine show. Thanks again for being here. Thanks for listening. And until next time, I'm Jason Luber, the traffic guy. Be safe, and as always, happy motoring.